were the last person to see the president alive. Did you kill him?
All right, Paradise, Season 1, Episode 6. Let's talk about Paradise in general before I break down what happened in the latest episode. Paradise is one of the new hit TV shows on Hulu, and I think after Episode 1, people thought that we had a real heater on our hands, like the next great show after that first episode. It's one of the best pilots you'll ever watch. Starring Sterling K. Brown as Xavier Collins. You got Cal Bradford, played by James Marsden, Julianne Nicholson playing Sinatra. That first episode, which was very mysterious and very well done with a huge twist at the end, and the whole time you could just tell something was off and you were waiting to put all the pieces together, and the flashbacks, and it was all just very, very well done. And I thought we had maybe the next major television show on our hands, which I'm always looking for. That next thing to really scratch the itch that's with the hole that has been left by, the Breaking Bads and the early days of Game of Thrones. One of those shows that is, water cooler, can't miss, don't want to be spoiled, cultural phenomenon type TV. And I thought maybe that we had that on Episode 1. Feidelberg's texted me. We're spreading the word. Everyone's got to watch this show. Now, the next couple episodes after that, as they released the first 3 on drop day, I love the way they did it. I think they had a premiere episode, and then the very next day dropped 2 and 3 before going to weekly. So you get, to me, that's the perfect formula. When shows put out like 3 initially, so you get a little bit of that binge, and you're not just left with, all sorts of questions, waiting a full week after just 1 hour of TV. You get 3 hours, you dig in, you learn about it, you're into that world, and then from there on, you go week to week, which is how I prefer all of the best TV, because I think that's when you really start to get the discussion and the theories and the breakdowns and everything that comes after the show. So, first episode, phenomenal. Episodes 2 and 3, you start to realize, I don't know if this is exactly the show we thought it was going to be. I still find it to be very entertaining. I am a sci-fi nerd. If you tell me there's a post-apocalyptic world and we're now living underground in a man-made city, I'm in, because I'm just thinking about how that whole world would play out, and I want to see more of it. But Episode 1 had me feeling like, maybe this is like an HBO level show. And episodes 2 and 3 make you feel more like this is, an NBC procedural. One of the good ones, not one of the terrible cheesy ones, more like Blacklist, when in the early days when Blacklist really was great with their villains and their plot had not completely spiraled out of control, but still not the same level of like an HBO or a streaming channel that is like real good drama. Episode 1 had me thinking maybe this is going to be sci-fi and very creative and unique and unprecedented, like Leftovers on HBO. Like, to me, The Leftovers, the show where the world gets raptured and you're left to pick up the pieces of what would happen if something like that occurred. I was thinking maybe that would happen with Paradise. We're going to really take a look at a post-apocalyptic world and dig into all the shit that would come along with that. The next couple episodes made you feel a little more like, okay, this is entertaining television. It's not run and tell your friends, recommend it to everyone you know, that sort of show. Once you have that mindset and that framework, the show's great still. It's still very entertaining, as long as you're not expecting it to be, the next cultural phenomenon, because I don't think it's quite there. I think Sterling K. Brown is the man. I think he's a great actor, and I think Xavier Collins is a great character. I think they've done a great job with the pace. It's just like people keep dying, twists keep happening, you keep getting reveals. In this world, there's a lot of slow burns out there, and a lot of shows that I love that, like a show like From, which is, a very Lost type of vibe with the same actors and some of the same creators of Lost. And even that, as I love that show, but I'm still like, we need some answers, man, as we keep building questions and we're not getting as many answers. Paradise has been hitting you with answers. Who's the bad guy? Okay, this is the bad guy. Oh, this person is dead. Here's what happened. Flashbacks and new material going forward, and everything keeps progressing. Now, in the latest episode 6, I felt like Sterling K. Brown turned to that like Denzel Washington Man on Fire type character, which is always entertaining to me. I love that. He is now like, I'm going scorched earth. I'm burning it all down, And when he meets with Gabriella at the diner, and he's got the whole Die Hard theme going. The Die Hard motif that arcs across this episode is great for someone like me who grew up on John McClane and Die Hard. I love it. So Xavier being like, "Tell your girl I'm coming for her," with the remaining artillery that is left on the planet Earth. I love that. Like, that's always going to be entertaining to me. So, someone going rogue, it reminds me of, Truman Show, when Jim Carrey is like, realizes that he's being lied to, realizes this world is all fake and fabricated, and fuck it, I'm going to expose these motherfuckers and tell the whole world what's going on. That's always a great time. That is, like an action movie, but it is certainly enjoyable. As for the rest of the episode, I got some notes here on it as I was watching through. Now, at the crux of this whole thing is Xavier Collins' wife. We know that she didn't make it into the bunker, and we know that there was a lot of resentment towards President Bradford from Xavier, and that's why their relationship had soured during the last days. Cal Bradford's got guilt, and he's drunk, and Xavier is like, still holding resentment that his wife never made it. And so that's really, a huge piece of this show is that entire dynamic and that whole storyline. And, we still have not figured out quite why she didn't make it. We see some flashes now to the helicopter, and there's blood, and we're learning that she was traveling to Atlanta, and he was trying to get her to stop, and she never, she refused to. How fucking annoying is that? Like, great, you're a doctor, you're saving the world, your work is important, I understand it. When your husband is the direct bodyguard of the President of the United States, and he is saying, tell your wife to stop going to Atlanta. Tell her that trips to Atlanta are not as harmless as they once were in the past. And he goes, well, I need more than that, boss. I can't, I don't have any details. And he turns and looks at a bunker door and says, I'm going to be the leader of after the end of the world. What more fucking details do you need? Yeah, okay, we don't know whether it's going to be a nuclear attack. We don't know whether it's going to be an act of God, weather, eruption, earthquake. We don't know that. But the president is telling you the end of the world is coming and you should stop going to Atlanta. And your wife is still so stubborn, she's going to keep fucking going. Dare I say, you don't deserve to be in the doomsday bunker if you're still stubborn enough to fly across the country for your work trips when you know the end of the world is pretty much imminent. That would drive me absolutely fucking insane. And now Xavier lives the rest of his life feeling guilty, and everything with the president is, his whole relationship with the president is completely fucked. And it's all for what he did everything he could. He promises, okay, well, then we'll go to Atlanta to get her. Well, that's probably not how it's going to work. They're probably not going to, send a rescue party to Atlanta for one person to then get you to Colorado when, 90% of the world is about to fucking evaporate. So that's driving me absolutely crazy. Now, at the heart of this episode is the battle between Xavier and Sinatra, and how Sinatra is going to handle him outing the truth, specifically that the truth that they've sent people up to the surface, that it's not what they thought it was, that it did look like it was still absolutely ruined, but that it was livable. And that's when Billy Pace is the sniper who takes everybody out under Sinatra's orders. So that piece of information being something that would obviously rock the underground world, knowing that they could, technically go back up to the surface. This feels a lot like the show Silo, if you watch that on Apple TV. Silo was phenomenal, season 1. Great show. Very similar, underground world. It's kind of like Snowpiercer, but instead of a train, we're living in a silo. And all of the shit that would come along with that, the government inside the silo, the class system inside the silo, how law enforcement will work, and the truths and the lies about what's going on the surface in this apocalyptic world. Season 2 of Silo, borderline unwatchable. I don't even want to say borderline. For me, unwatchable. 2 episodes in, I was like, I can't watch this. It's so bad. It was so slow. One of the biggest sophomore slumps I've ever seen in television after what I thought was a great diamond in the rough. Like Apple TV, not many people had heard about it, fun sci-fi. And boy, did that second season absolutely fucking stink. But We see a little bit of that same idea here with Paradise, that they're trying to keep people out of the know, not let them know that they still could live on the surface. Although I will say this, it's not like, they went up to the surface and it was like, oh, actually everything's fine and we're just down here trying to keep you guys, under lock and key. Okay, the air was breathable, but, the world itself was still absolutely eradicated. It's like, okay, maybe we can put the pieces back together. But, if I had my pick between living up there in what looked like, the Book of Eli type of apocalyptic world versus downstairs under the dome, I think I would probably stay downstairs, to be perfectly honest. This is something I've always thought about in my weird sci-fi nerd brain, especially after, I don't think anybody ever really watched this show, but NBC, or one of the networks, once had a show called Under the Dome, and it had Dean Norris, who played Hank Schrader in Breaking Bad, and it was a Stephen King novel where the idea was one day a city wakes up and there's just been a dome placed over them, and they have no information as to why it happened, how it happened, or what's going on. And it ended up being like some aliens and this totally ridiculously far-fetched, awful storyline. But the notion was pretty cool. Like, what would happen if you woke up under the dome and you knew that the government or the world had done this and you have no contact with the outside? Who, what, when, where, why, all of that, like the chaos that would ensue. And so that's, we get a little bit of that with Paradise as we're seeing this underground man-made world Truman Show that is, by all accounts, I think pretty cushy. I don't know. Yeah, you run into these debates about like freedom and, you have your bracelets that you have to check in everywhere and all that. But, when there's this debate kind of like, I deserve to know the truth and you're hiding this from me. And it's like, well, I don't know. If everything underneath the ground is pretty fucking awesome, what's there to complain about? There's no guns. There's no violence. There was no murder up until Cal Bradford. I don't know. For my money, for a guy who's team indoors, I could live indoors my whole life. Put me under the dome. No big deal. But obviously, at the crux of these shows are always the idea of like, freedom of the people and whatnot. So Sinatra runs into the issue of, how is she going to handle this? Now, Gabriella, the therapist, consistently asking her, like, why? Well, what does he have on you that you're not willing to, work with him on this, or what could he possibly say that is worth this level of war with shutting down the whole dome and, basically, creating worldwide panic? The only thing I didn't like was she had the most oddly specific reference when she was like, have you ever been on a Disney ride and then the ride malfunctions and the lights come on and it ruins the ride for you and you could never look at it the same? Like, fucking no, bitch. That's never happened to me. That is such an oddly specific example. And I get what she's saying. The point is made that, they will never be able to look at this world the same if they realize, that it's literally just, you can shut the lights down and manipulate, everything, your entire existence. But what a weird, don't you know what it's like when you're on a small world in Disney World and the lights come on and then, the magic is ruined forever? I don't know. Has that happened to like 50 people like in the history of the world? That was very, very strange. Very, very strange. As far as this plan that Xavier executed, like on the one front, die hard, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, John McClane, I've got all the guns, ho, ho, ho. Almost executed like a flawless plan. However, if you're going to go after the person who quite literally runs the world at this point, who is capable of murder, who has hired, has taken out Billy Pace, who has taken out the president, and, you're going for all the guns and for all the power, you have got to make sure your kids are locked up, man, and safe. Like, he had one dude who was supposed to watch over them in the bunker, who clearly didn't do his job at all, letting the daughter just like saunter out of there, no problem. You gotta know that your kids are safe if you're gonna go for the head like that, because of course they're gonna go kidnap your kid, and then that's gonna be used as ransom, and your whole plot is absolutely fucked. That he should have had his kids in the safe house where everyone else was gonna be held hostage, so his kids would be right by his side, because I wouldn't trust anybody else to look after them when I'm about to go try to overthrow the post-apocalyptic world government. But it is interesting to see, when one team's got all the guns and all the power, how much influence will they have? Now this chick, what's her name? Mary, is it? Billy's girl. She is a fucking problem. That chick is a cold-blooded assassin. When Billy Pace was like, "You better send the baddest motherfucker you got," and she poisons him, and she's like, "You said send him," and she did. She is a scary one, and the fact that that Xavier Collins and Richardson have like no clue. They were like, "Oh, she was catatonic after Billy died. She's useless. Like, don't even think about her." They are not even, considering the possibility that she's going to be an issue, and she's going to be the absolute biggest issue. But on the whole, 6 episodes in, I'm entertained by it. I'm there every week. I think there's some cool, deeper dynamics. The episode where we learn about Cal Bradford and his father, how his father basically pushed him into this life as president, and it's not something he ever wanted. And you kind of get to look behind the curtain as to why Cal, his life was so fucked up, and his marriage fell apart, and his relationship with his kids, when he really was just trying to like do the best he could, keep his father happy, keep the family together, keep the country running, when all he wanted to do was go be a teacher. And his dad was like, "No, you're destined for greater things. If you were named Arthur, you could have been a teacher, but you're Cal Bradford, so you got bigger things." By the way, Dad was absolutely right. Cal Bradford is one of those names, like President Cal Bradford. He's not wrong on that one. That's some Malcolm Gladwell shit. That was a self-fulfilling prophecy with that name. But there's some interesting stuff there with his backstory and everything that happened with Xavier and his wife. You're getting to learn more about Cal Bradford's kid, and I'm sure he's got the guilt of his last moments with his father being him and his dad fighting, and he's gonna listen to the tapes that Cal left behind, and I'm sure everything comes to light for him. He's got the iPad that has all the secrets. So there are some interesting storylines, and I like the flashbacks. Ever since Lost did it to perfection, a lot of shows have employed the flashback mechanism, and it's always good in like a post-apocalyptic setting where it's like you get to see what they were like in the regular world, and then you come back to the present day where everything is different. So there is enough there to keep me entertained. I will be there week to week. I actually think it's gotten better. Like, first episode I thought was amazing. Next couple, I was like, I don't know about the show. And then I think it kind of picked back up, and I feel like we've leveled off at the type of show where it's a little bit action, it's a little bit sci-fi. It's not exactly, going to win awards or be, the most dramatic show, but the acting is entertaining. The storyline is interesting. If you're a sci-fi nerd like me, you start to theorize what it would be like and the panic that would ensue if all the lights got cut off, and it would be like The Purge, and all of those things that is enough to keep me there week to week. So be on the lookout for more Paradise conversations and breakdowns. I'll be back next week with another one for episode 7.